The situation in Sudan is heartbreaking, as more than 180 people have lost their lives and 1,800 have been injured. It's frustrating that the two sides involved aren't willing to work towards peace with the UN's help. Let's hope that sanity will prevail, and a peaceful resolution can be found soon. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, is pushing for Egypt to privatize state assets and allow flexibility in its currency as part of its $3 billion rescue package. The IMF wants Egypt to pass a review of its progress on enacting reforms before accessing the second tranche of its loan. The director for the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia said a flexible exchange rate would help protect Egypt's economy from external shocks. Rising oil and food prices due to the COVID-19 pandemic and war in Ukraine have hit Egypt's economy, with the Egyptian pound losing half its value, and about one-third of the country's 104 million people living in poverty. Myanmar's military has announced plans to release over 3,000 prisoners for the country's traditional New Year, but it remains unclear if those jailed for opposing its power grab in February 2021 will be among them. The military has imprisoned thousands of opponents and pro-democracy activists since seizing power, including Aung San Suu Kyi, a Nobel laureate and figurehead of opposition to military rule. While the amnesty may bring joy to some, human rights organizations and world leaders continue to call for the release of all political prisoners. South Korean Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho has announced that he will be meeting with his Japanese counterpart, Shunichi Suzuki, in May at the Asian Development Bank, ADB, annual meetings in South Korea. This meeting marks the first bilateral meeting between the finance ministers of the two nations in 7 years, providing hope for closer economic policy cooperation despite past diplomatic conflicts. The meeting may also bring about discussions regarding a possible resumption of a bilateral currency swap arrangement that expired in 2015. The U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet sent the USS Milius through the Taiwan Strait in a routine transit to demonstrate its commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific, just days after China finished its war games around the island. China, which considers Taiwan its territory, tracked the movement, and Colonel Shi Yi stated that troops in the area would defend national sovereignty and security, as well as regional peace and stability. Although China has never renounced the use of force to bring Taiwan under its control, Taiwan's government says only the island's people can decide their future. After 418 days of turmoil, the Russia-Ukraine war seemingly has no end in sight. The list of key events continues to grow like a never-ending CVS receipt. It's high time for the parties involved to put aside their differences and begin the journey towards peace. A sweet 16 inches birthday party turned tragic in the small town of Dadeville, Alabama, as a gunman killed at least 4 people, including high school football player Philstavius Dowdle. As the U.S. experiences its third high-profile mass shooting in as many weeks, authorities have yet to announce a motive or whether a suspect is in custody. President Joe Biden has called for tighter gun control measures and counseling will be provided at local schools. The prevalence of mass shootings in the U.S. is alarming, with more than 163 recorded so far in 2023 alone. The presidents of Kenya, South Sudan, and Djibouti will be traveling to Sudan to reconcile the military factions that have resumed fighting for control of the country. The clashes between Sudan's army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces have resulted in at least 97 civilian deaths and hundreds of injuries. The violence erupted over a disagreement over the integration of the RSF into the military as part of a transition towards civilian rule. Residents of the capital, Khartoum, have been hunkering down in fear of prolonged conflict. Despite a 3-hour humanitarian pause, heavy gunfire and artillery continued to be heard in various parts of the city. The situation has sparked an international outcry and regional concern. Appeals to end the fighting have come from across the region and the globe, including the US, UK, China, and the EU. The UN says 1/3 of Sudan's population is in need of humanitarian aid. Iran's judiciary has sentenced 10 individuals for their involvement in the downing of a Ukraine International Airlines flight in January 2020. The prime suspect, the commander of the missile defense system that fired the missiles, received a 10-year discretionary sentence and must pay compensation to the victims' families. 2 personnel operating the missile system were also given 1-year sentences, while others were given sentences ranging from 1 to 3 years. The judiciary has specified that the suspects will face other punishments as well. The incident occurred amid Iran-US tensions, and Iranian authorities initially denied the plane was shot down. Critics, including victims' families and officials in Ukraine and Canada, have criticized Iran for a lack of transparency and cooperation. Yemeni rebels and government forces have successfully completed a 3-day exchange of nearly 900 detainees, including a woman accused of organizing deadly explosions. The exchange is a welcome sign of hope for ending Yemen's lengthy war, which has resulted in hundreds of thousands of casualties and a major humanitarian crisis. The exchange was also timed to coincide with the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Fitr, allowing thousands of people to be reunited with their families. The exchange, the largest since 2020, is seen as a confidence-building measure towards a durable ceasefire as diplomatic efforts continue to end the conflict.